welcome to another in the series of my handmade home. I'm Jane of Luby's Place, and today I'm coming to you from my studio at home. So this is going back to a project I shared with you a little while ago. So in the time since then, it's about making up washing sponges out of recycled materials, a more eco-friendly alternative to buying the washing sponges from the shop. I'll put a link up so you can check the videos before. I spoke about the different materials that I used in making the original ones, and now I'm going to show you how I made them. So you'll need some cotton fabric, you'll need some wadding, I've used cotton wadding there, and you'll need some toweling. Cotton or bamboo will do nicely. So this is an old towel that I've recycled. The fabric and the wadding are leftover bits that have come over from other projects, and the bit on the scratchy side that I'm using is from a bath scrunchie. So it's past its use by date from the bath, taken it apart, and I've scrubbed it clean. So for taking this off, when you undo it, it turns out to be a tube. So the easiest way to use it is to cut lengths of it and leave it double. Now, as you can see, it's very springy. So when you're putting your layers together, you need to pin it, and then when you sew it, you can just hold it out. Make sure that you've got all the edges. So for these ones, I've cut these ones at 6 by 5 inches. I may have done the other ones slightly smaller. So you want to cut yourself a piece of your cotton. You're going to back it with the wadding, then you're going to put it on the right side. You want a layer of something like this. Watch the video above. I explain why I've chosen to go with this. I did try some other options, and over the months when I've been using them, this has definitely been the one that has lasted the longest. So here I've got it all layered up. As you can see, it's still scrunching its way forward, so as I'm sewing, I'm going to make sure that I'm stretching that out of the seam so I can catch it all in. I've layered it so that my toweling is sandwiching the nylon scrunchy bit in the middle. When I turn it through the right way, the toweling will be on one side and the fabric with the scrunchy bits on the other side. So I pinned it together and I'm going to start sewing it together. So on one of the sides you want to leave yourself a turning gap, so it doesn't really matter which. It doesn't really matter on seam allowances either. So I'm just going to use the edge of my foot and let's get sewing. So I've still got my stitch length on 2.5, and as you can see, I'm just holding that there. I'm just going to check that I've got all the bits out on the side. There we go. I'm just going to hold that in place while I stitch this down. Just take my pin out there. It's at an angle, which isn't very good for sewing machines. I'm going to take that out. There we are. Let's get that laid back down again. So as I'm sewing this, I'm going to come right off the corner. There we go, just make sure that that's coming out the end. Right, there we go, I'm going to lift that up, take that pin out there. Make sure that's folded out. take the other pin out there, and again just make sure that that's there we go. And now this is the last one. Again, just making sure I've got both layers out there. There we go. Take my pin out before I get to it. Now, it's quite an idea to do a batch of these at a time, but once you've done, you can give your machine a good clean, because obviously the towel does shed quite a bit. Right, this is the last side. I'm just going to make sure all those pieces are there. I'm just going to leave a gap. There we go. I can cut that off. Right then, so there's my turning gap there. You don't want to leave it right on the edges, because we're going to fold the edges over and we're going to top stitch once we've turned it through and all the edges are sewn in. Now I'm going to start turning it out. You notice I haven't clipped the corners or cut back all the edges. I did that the first batch I made, but I found that it allowed for greater integrity if I didn't cut them, because these strands are quite narrow. So by leaving them all intact, it just gives it greater stability. As these are just going to be used for washing up, it doesn't really matter if the corners aren't nice and neat. So probably been a better idea to leave a gap on the longer edge, but there we go. So for stuffing, I've got some offcuts here that's come out of my scrap bag. I've just come across another alternative that you can use, which would be quite handy. So for packing on refrigerated foods or frozen foods, companies now using sheep's wool, and it comes in a sort of a plastic packaging. It's recyclable. Some companies have arrangements where you can send it back and it's reused. However, if you're using it and there isn't a way of sending it back, that would make a good stuffing for these as well. So that is something that I'm going to use in the future. Right then, so you can see I've got my fabric on one side and my scratchy bit here and my towel there. So now I'm going to get my scraps. So I found it's quite an idea to put more stuffing in than you think you need. You'll soon find a system that works for you. I do wash these, so it does move, but depending on how much you put in gives you the grip that you need as well. So I would go for more stuffing than overstuffing rather than understuffing. There we go. So I'm going to do that, and now I'm going to top stitch all the way around. Let's get rid of those threads. You can see it's quite messy. Now I'm going to make sure those are folded up. There we go. Let's get those threads in there. So basically this is what you want to do for this bit, is to make sure that all your edges are sewn down, but it also gives you a nice little edge for when you're washing up too. So when it comes to sewing it closed, we go into stitch fairly close to the edge. Let's put my needle down. I'm going to go slowly. I've got it on a 3.5. So when it gets to the corner, go, turn around, let's try and flatten it down. So when you're stuffing it, this is where you don't really want to be pushing it right into the corners. And I'm just flattening it down as I go along. Right, just bear with me. I just caught the over the nylon over the threads. That's it. Go. And I'm just going to flatten that out. Try not to hook your foot up as you go. Go last side. So there's no need for pretty sewing on this really. I tend to use whatever thread is in my machine. Just let me loosen that off. We're all about functional here rather than pretty. There we go. And then we can cut that off. So where's my scissors? There we go. So there you have your washing up sponge. Now what I do with mine is I use it for a day and then it goes into the washing. So I do have a number of these that I then rotate. They do wear out after a while. These nylon bits do catch and you get holes in them. That's one of the reasons I've not trimmed it off, because it makes it more stable, because sometimes what I did find was if I trimmed it off like you would normally do, they would sometimes come undone because they're so fine. So by leaving it all in, it does help to stuff your pad anyway, but it also helps make them last longer. When they do start wearing out, you can throw them away if you don't have a compost bin. Everything apart from the plasticky bit on the front is going to rot away. If you've got a compost bin, the rest of it can go into the compost, as it will biodegrade over time. You might find that cutting it into strips will help that process. If you use the eco wool, the sheep's wool, that's also useful on gardens as well. You can use it as mulch and for protecting roots and things around the bases of stems on plants. So it is a much better option all round. I do hope you found that useful. Look forward to coming back with another in the series very soon. If you have tried making these and have used them, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Put a comment below. Hit the subscribe button and the bell and you'll get notifications when new content is added. I look forward to speaking to you very soon, but in the meantime, do take care. Bye for now.